this past weekend. We had guns blazing in Arizona. Once again, Vaquero doing what he does best and beat the shit out of a Mexican, man. This is insane.
I deemed that this was going to be, a Morales and Barrero type of fight. It was not like that, man.
It was just a completely one-sided demolition.
So a lot of people online were saying, yo, he gave him a little bit too much respect. He was a little too nice.
I think that's so stupid, honestly. A lot of people have this misconception that, like, you have to hate your opponent in order to try to beat him.
This was also, I believe, his 17th world championship bout. That's impressive, man. I mean, 17 world title bouts. He's up there with like Canelo and Nunez. And now after the fight, I'm looking online and a lot of people are saying he should be top 10 pound for pound.
As much as I like Navarrete, I don't believe he's within the top 10.
He's a great fighter, but not cracking the top 10.
Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. Today's episode, we'll be going over the unification bout between Emmanuel Navarrete against Sugar Nuñez and giving our thoughts on the confirmed fight between Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. And now, diving into the episode, this past weekend, we had guns blazing in Arizona when we had a 130 unification fight between El Vaquero Navarrete as he took on Sugar Nuñez. This fight was, people were hyping it up as sort of a 50-50 fight. Vegas had Sugar Nuñez as the slight favorite, and a lot of questions were being asked regarding Emmanuel Navarrete in the aspect of, is his career done? Is he past his prime? Will we see a good version of him? Will we not? Will Sugar Nuñez showcase his power? Lots of questions. And this past weekend, we saw, once again, Vaquero doing what he does best and beat the shit out of a Mexican, man. This is insane. Thoughts about this fight?
Yeah, I was very impressed by Navarrete. It's instant Mexican classic. When two Mexicans go into the ring, you should expect fireworks. And that's what we saw. I really did not think it was going to be this one-sided. I thought Sugar Nuñez was going to do a little bit better. And it was kind of interesting to me because I went back and I watched Nuñez's last fight against El Pitufo Diaz, Christopher Diaz, I believe. And he actually struggled in that fight a lot. And I think one of the things that he really didn't like was how sharp and how fast Diaz was. And going into this fight, that's kind of what I started thinking. I started thinking, Navarrete he's a fast fighter. Like, he throws combinations. His combinations are explosive. They're quick. They're unorthodox. And maybe Diaz isn't really going to know how to respond. And I think that's really what happened. Diaz, he was just a little too slow, a little too, he couldn't get the timing of Navarrete, and it was just a completely one-sided demolition.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, last week you gave your prediction for Nuñez, so that means you don't know anything about boxing.
I was saying it was 50-50, but I was leaning a little towards Nuñez. But then, that's what I'm saying. I went back and I watched his fight. Because the scorecards are very wide for that fight. I mean, Nuñez won it like 117 to whatever, right? So it was like 8 rounds to 9 rounds to 3. You know what I'm saying? It was a clear margin. And he also got 2 knockdowns. But if you look back at that fight, it was very competitive. And I think, Nuñez, he doesn't have a lot of power, but I think once he started moving up the ranks and actually start fighting like more elite guys, you could see he has holes in his game.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's what surprised me the most is the fact that Navarrete was the one. There was a lot of questions behind about him coming into this fight, and for him to just display that the old typical Navarrete that we're accustomed to seeing, and plus the way he was fighting off that back foot, just throwing a lot of combinations, just having Nuñez come towards him, he was able to work him. really well. Even on the ropes, like he was still swinging and throwing and having much success against Nunez. And I deemed that this was going to be a Morales and Vaquero type of fight. It was not like that, man. So congrats to Navarrete. Now he's a unified champion at that weight class.
Yeah, let's talk about the fight. I saw a lot of people online who were, after the fight, were kind of critiquing Sugar Nuñez, saying, yo, he gave him way too much respect. Even during the build-up, they were talking about how much respect they had for each other. Nunez even stated himself that he had been watching Navarrete's career for many years and that he was a fan of him. So a lot of people online were saying, yo, he gave him a little bit too much respect. He was a little too nice. Do you think that played a factor? Do you think that if Nunez would have came in, respecting him, of course, but not giving him that much respect, that it could have been a different outcome?
I think that's so stupid, honestly. That it makes completely no sense. And if you look at Nunez's past fights, he fights with a lot of respect. His last fight with Diaz, the ring for some reason was very slippery, so both fighters were slipping all the time. And every single time Nunez would, extend the arm and, give him a glove touch. He's just a respectful fighter, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people have this misconception that like you have to hate your opponent in order to try to beat him. It's like no, he's still very competitive. Nunez wanted to win that fight. That he showed respect to Navarrete because Navarrete has done great things for Mexico, and he's one of the Mexicans' like biggest fighters, biggest stars right now. So I don't think there was anything wrong with that. And people say that they wanted him to show less respect. I don't know. I just think he was outclassed, and the skills were different. It wasn't a thing about respect or anything.
For me, that's what surprised me the most is the fact that he said that he had been following his career, and that he was a fan. Navarrete is like 30, 28. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's not that old. So I thought that was kind of crazy for him to say that. But it's possible that, there was some type of, feeling. Maybe he was a little bit starstruck, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a fighter that, I'm a fan of. Now I'm fighting him, for a unification matchup. But all in all, once he got into the ring, that respect shit kind of goes out the window, and it's kind of hard to respect the opponent when, he's hitting you, you know what I'm saying? Especially like Navarrete, he hits like a fucking mule. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure that went out the window, and it was just him trying to, get both of the belts. Mm-hmm. And, he just came up short.
Yeah. Another big talking point was that eye. And Navarrete, he's notorious for being the eye crusher. He's crushed many opponents, not only their face, but he's busted up their eye. Last one was Oscar Valdez, where he left him in the first fight, where he left him with a balloon instead of your typical eye shape. So this fight, once again, Navarrete showcased his power, busted up his eye, between rounds 3 and 4, I believe. And that was the reason why the fight was stopped. That's the reason why the doctor ended up waving off the fight in the 11th round. But would that have, even before the doctor stoppage, Sugar Nuñez was already taking a lot of punishment. I mean, I'm looking at the CompuBox here. Overall, Navarrete landed a total percentage of 39.7% of all his punches, but he had a 47.8% in power punches. And in that final 10th round before the fight was stopped in the 11th, Navarrete ended up he threw 90 punches. Imagine throwing 90 punches in the 10th round like that. And he landed 49% of his power punches in that round. So, a lot of people were saying the fight should have been stopped earlier. The fight shouldn't have gone that long. How does this loss against Vaquero Navarrete affect Sugar Nuñez? Is this going to affect them long term? Is this going to do something to his chin? Because he showed great heart, but a fight of this magnitude and the beating that he got surely will affect him, right?
I think it definitely was a one-sided fight, and the stoppage was completely fine with me. Sugar Nuñez was going to go out on his shield. He's a Mexican warrior. He's got that spirit, and he of course didn't want the fight to end. But you do have to look at the punishment that he was taking. The damage, his eye was completely messed up, completely shut. And you have to assess, because if he keeps on taking these punches, why? He's not winning the fight, And I understand that they gave him a little leeway because this is a unification bout at the 130 division. So, they're both champions, and you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But at that point in the fight, there was no real reason to continue that fight. And I don't know, the damage, it was a lot of damage, but shit, Mexicans, they can take the punches. So I don't think it's going to affect him long term. I think he definitely has to rest up and, get all healed up. But I think we could definitely see him back. So he should just take this as a learning experience and rest up and then go back to the drawing board and try to get a world title again.
Yeah, in regards to this, there was quite a bit of damage. I don't believe that, it's going to have some type of negative effect on him. He showed that he has a heart. And, when push come to shove, like, he wasn't going to push, and he didn't quit. The doctor stopped us. So, that tells you something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when we see guys like quit or just shake their head no, well, for me, I kind of give that signals to me that, he's not going to make it much longer. He's not going to be in the sport for much longer. But in regards to Nunez, I'm curious to see how his team goes from here, first, right, they're going to rest up, and then I'm curious to see how they're going to manage his career. I could maybe see him becoming a champion again. You know what I'm saying? Navarrete is the top dog at that weight class. So, he didn't get the result that he wanted. It was also by stoppage. Didn't go the whole distance. So, I think, he should be better, after this fight.
Mm-hmm. I personally do think this will affect his career. That type of beating is, we see a lot of fighters who get beat that way, and even though Nunez, he never went down, he would have kept going if the doctor wouldn't have stopped it. But after, it might affect his overall performance in future fights, just because of how brutal this one-sided beatdown was. From early on in the fight, he was already getting hit clean by Navarrete. And keep in mind, Navarrete, he's a hard puncher, man. He's a hard puncher. He hurt Nunez multiple times throughout the fight. Yes, like I said, he didn't fall. He never got knocked down, but you could tell that there were many points in the fight where he was just absolutely fighting out of pure will, because he just, he's that tough of a fighter, which is, you got to give him props for that. But yeah, overall, this fight was a showcasing of people underestimating El Vaquero Navarrete. Like I said, he was the underdog coming into the fight, and a lot of questions were being asked about him. And now after the fight, I'm looking online, and a lot of people are saying, they're being a little bit, crazy, saying, oh, Navarrete he should be top 10 pound for pound. I'm like, okay, let's not get too crazy here. But they're saying, he top 10 pound for pound. They're saying best fighter at 130, which I do agree, between him and Usyk. And they're all out here saying Navarrete is, a generational type of fighter. So a lot of people are now giving him the respect after a very dominant performance over Sugar Nuñez. And in regards to Emmanuel Navarrete, first time unifying. He's now the IBF and WBO champion at the 130. What's next for him? Because there's a couple big names out there. There's supposedly talks between Usyk and Raymond Ford. They had an altercation last night as well during the fights. Yeah. So Usyk might be busy as one of the champions. Giza Dickens, the email champion, WBA email champion, set to fight in around 2 weeks against Anthony Kakase. No. So the other champions are fairly busy. Navarrete just got done with the fight. What's next for Vaquero?
Well, it's like we got to see who the best is at 130. And I know a lot of people online are saying that it is Navarrete, and I agree as well. But, Usyk Foster is obviously the other contender, between the best at 130. And Usyk is coming off of a great win against Fulton. He whooped him for 12 rounds. It was fucking. It was bad. It was very. I think he actually 12-0 him. It was completely outclassed Stephen Fulton, who is a former world champion. So, that I feel like that fight needs to be made. And yeah, I don't know, with Raymond Ford, you know, he's also a top level guy, but I do think Oshaki Foster is going to win that fight pretty comfortably. And it's early, you know, so hopefully Navarrete can kind of rest, you know, spend time with his family, and then hopefully that fight falls through so we can get Oshaki Foster and Emmanuel Navarrete.
Yeah, me personally, that's the only fight that I want to see him fight is against Oshaki Foster. But yeah, you said it, and you know I wasn't even really thinking about it. But yeah, both of the champions are basically going to be busy. You know, if Foster's already eyeing for a defense title against Raymond Ford, and then Giza Dickens has a bout coming up in 2 weeks. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we're just gonna see a title defense later in the year for Navarrete.
Well, I mean, there's also a possibility that he could fight the winner of Kakase and Dickens. Yeah. There's a chance that, because honestly, I feel like Kakase might take that belt back. You know? Yeah. So he might take the belt back, and they're fighting so like 2 weeks apart. They're both going to be resting. Maybe we could see another unification. You know, Navarrete's going to take over the whole division, right? He's going after every single champion. So that could definitely be a possibility. Shit, maybe send it over there in New England, in England. Yeah. Send it over there in England, and we're obviously going to see the Mexican once again beat the shit out of the British. It always happens.
Well, a lot of people were also saying, "Yo, what if Charlie Suarez can get his opportunity once again?" Remember last time, before this fight against Sugar Nuñez, Navarrete took on Charlie Suarez in a very controversial fight that ended in a stoppage just because of a cut that was deemed a headbutt, or an elbow, but turns out it was an actual punch that caused the cut. So very controversial. It was a very tough fight for Navarrete. Suarez was having a lot of success in that fight, so a lot of people were saying, "Yo, Charlie Suarez deserves a shot at Navarrete after this fight." He's still ranked the number 1 contender in the WBO, so that's another possibility for Emmanuel Navarrete. And then, you know, you had Cool Boy Fulton call out for the winner of Navarrete and Nunez, stating that he wants next, and I thought that was a bit laughable in my opinion. I mean, it'd still be a big fight because Fulton still has name, you know, he still has some value, some weight to his name, but Vaquero would have wiped the floor with him. Yeah. So realistically, there are a lot of options. I think this is a good time for them because, like you guys mentioned, Giza Dickens and Kakase are fighting in 2 weeks. There's going to be a time frame of rest between Navarrete and the winner of that fight that, you know, could potentially be another unification down the line. Turkey also mentioned how he wanted to have a Mexico versus the world for September for a Canelo main event. And a lot of people were saying, yo, Emmanuel Navarrete versus Oshaki Foster could be on there for September down the line. So lots of options for El Vaquero now that he is officially a unified champion in the super featherweight division. This was also, I believe, his 17th world championship bout, which makes him one of the more, you know, that's one of that's impressive, man. I mean, 17 world title bouts. He's up there with like Canelo and Nunez as the active fighters with that amount of championship fights in their resume. So it was a very impressive performance from El Vaquero in Arizona. He showcased a lot of grit, man. And I think the biggest winner though was the fact that his nutritionist got him this win. Because keep in mind, man, he stated that this was the first time he hired a nutritionist. And, I mean, he said he made weight very easy. Yeah. He said he's never felt better than this fight. You know, he felt physically fantastic. He said that he was in his prime. Was that the key to success?
Yes. You know, when you're not sitting in the bed after weighing in and eating Twinkies, you're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing with Navarrete that, you know, as a fan, you hate to see how inconsistent he is. You know, when he's motivated and actually wants to win the fight, okay, we're going to see a very good version of him. But when he's fighting a guy maybe lesser known or maybe just a simple title defense, he, like, slacks off, you know. So hopefully, you know, he has money now. So, like, hire a team, bro, to, like, make this process easier, like a nutritionist. I think that was an amazing move.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that you said, Pablo. The fact that people online were stating the fact that they believe that Navarrete is a top 10 pound for pound fighter. As much as I like Navarrete, I don't believe he's within the top 10. When you look at the top 10, there's a reason why they're on that. And a lot of them, they're stacked. You know what I'm saying? They have a big resume, that can back it up. You said it. Navarrete has been in 17 title bouts. Unfortunately, those are defense bouts. You know what I'm saying? They're not. I wouldn't say the fighters that he fought aren't good, but when you look at their resume, it's also doesn't. There's not too much of a showing. So, as much as I like Navarrete, I don't think he's within the top 10. I would say top 15 for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has a very unorthodox style, and it obviously works. Yeah. But with that being said, he's also failed. Like he went up to 135, and just a complete he just wasn't there at all. And I feel like when you're talking about the top 10, a lot of these fighters, they are multi-division champions. The only exceptions are probably like Bivol or Better Beef. Those are the only exceptions, but those are masters of their craft, right? And they were literally fighting for undisputed. And you're right, Navarrete, this is the first time that he's actually unified, So, yeah. I don't know, I feel like he's a great fighter, but not cracking the top 10.
And look, here's the thing. You said that, a lot of these people on the list, they've been champions for, different weight classes. Navarrete started at 122. So 122, 126, 130, and then he failed at 135. I believe he would have, gotten a belt at 135. Maybe you can make the case, but at least for me, that's the way I see it. I don't put him on there. It's because of the lack of his opponents, like their names and whatnot.
I have him like top 15, of course. I think he is definitely there. But I think an argument that you can make for him to not be is the fact that he's very inconsistent. I mean, he can give a good performance one fight, and then the next fight he gives a bad one. And, those top 10 pound for pound, there's a reason they're there, because they give constant good performances. I mean, you had like Shakur there. I mean, he's coming off of whooping the fuck out of Teofimo, but before that, I mean, he gave a great performance against Zepeda. I mean, and he's always constantly given good performances, minus the Los Santos fight. But all these, he's a very inconsistent fighter, which is why I personally don't have him there. But if he fights this type of way, the way that he fought against Sugar Nuñez in his next bout, if he does that to a fighter like O'Shaquie Foster, or even a fighter like Raymond Ford or something like that, a big name at the super featherweight division, I'm saying like he's building up a case for him to be put into the top 10, and more people are going to give him even more respect for beating a fighter of the caliber like O'Shaquie Foster, who right now has a lot of hype coming off from whooping the fuck out of Cool Boy Fulton. So I think it's just a matter of him remaining and staying consistent and giving these high-quality fights the same way that he fought Nunez against other fighters, especially a big champion like O'Shaquie Foster, who is competing with him as, for the number one spot at the super featherweight.
Yeah, and look, some of the other guys in the top 10 pound for pound list, they always give great performances. One of them being, Usyk. Usyk is a guy who, no matter who he fights, he seems as though he's beaten everybody.
He has,
and so he looks great, and so I mean, there's a reason why he's up there, and instead of someone like Navarrete.
Yeah, so El Vaquero Navarrete showcased his style. He showcased why he's a world-class champion by destroying Sugar Nuñez in a fight that a lot of people were deeming to be a 50-50, which turned out not to be. And now we officially have a unified champion at the super featherweight. Lots of options for El Vaquero Navarrete. A lot of hype now, once again, on his name. And I'm very happy to see that, because, we're all big Vaquero Navarrete fans, and seeing him throughout these couple years not fighting at the, at the standard that we know that he's capable of was a bit, frustrating. But I'm glad he was able to showcase why he is, one of, if not the best fighter at the super featherweight division. And now going on to the next segment of today's episode, we have heavyweight news. Confirmed fight May 23rd in Giza at the Pyramids, a ring special featuring Oleksandr Usyk's return, taking on kickboxing legend Rico Verhoeven. Now, this fight, when announced, was met with a lot of mixed reviews, a lot of backlash. Some people saying they were kind of for it, some people saying they hated it. Either way, May 23rd, we're getting another crazy spot for a boxing event, the Pyramids in Giza. Thoughts about this fight?
Listen, this is going to be a massive event. It's going to be it's historic, right? You know, fighting at those pyramids. That's like crazy to think that, you know, boxing is going there. So I like to see that as a boxing fan. At the same time, what the fuck is this fight? Like, who the hell is Usyk fighting? You know, like, who's this Rico guy? You know, they're saying, oh, he's a kickboxer. He's from Glory. You know, he's good. Oh, shout out Glory. Shout out all the kickboxers. You know, y'all do y'all thing. But you're not. Why are you just coming to the sport and then gonna fight the number one pound for pound fighter? Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't really add up. So I don't know. Like, this fight, I was really, really disappointed with Usyk. You know, I don't know why he's fighting a kickboxer that has one professional boxing fight in his resume against a 0-5 guy. Like, it's just it just doesn't really make sense to me, especially that the fact that we have Caballero, who is ready for a title shot, and every single time he gets it taken away, and it's given to this kickboxer. Like, I'm just very disappointed.
Look, for me, yeah, I didn't like this, you know what I'm saying? But I was saying earlier in a few episodes ago that I wanted to see him against Wilder. And unfortunately, I don't know why the negotiations didn't actually go through or whatever, and now Wilder's fighting Chisora. But it should have been Wilder, man. And you know, I said it before. I'm in agreement with Usyk. You know, he's a champion. He gets to do whatever he wants, and you know, as you know, maybe not a lot of people like that, but he's a champion, man. So he gets to call the shots now. What I don't like is the fact that there is just one sanctioning body that is making this now a title fight. If you want to go ahead and fight this kickboxer and make a lot of money going to the pyramids, by all means, go do it. But I don't like the fact that the organization is also being like, yeah, the belt was also on the line. Can you imagine if Usyk loses? Which obviously he's not going to lose. But can you imagine now a kickboxer who's 2-0 becomes a world champion? Like, I think that's stupid.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when the boxer is bigger than the sport.
Well, it seems as though the sport is also helping him, like, do this bullshit too.
Well, it's because, Mauricio Suleiman is a fucking leech. Come on. I mean, that boy just wants money, and that's the only thing that matters to him. Obviously, a lot of boxers have been really voicing their opinion on the WBC, and specifically Mauricio Suleiman as the president, that, like, bro, this guy just wants fucking money. Like, he's like, give me money. If you don't give me money, then I'm going to take your belt. So, obviously, you know, Turkey probably pulled up and was like, yo, it's going to be a big money fight. And Mauricio Suleiman was like, okay, yeah, let's go. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's the bad part of boxing. That's the bad part of the sport. But, you know, like you're saying, Usyk can do whatever he wants. Okay, then he's going to do some dumb shit. You know, the organization should definitely punish him, and they should be like, you can't do this. Like, at least Wilder, I have some critiques of that fight, but I understand, you know, Wilder was one of the biggest names in the past 10 years of heavyweight boxing. He had a lot of title defenses. That makes sense to me. But this just is completely stupid. And it's like, I feel like it's a slap in the face for the boxing fans. Like, if you want to make a lot of money, have an exhibition. Don't make this a real fight, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw people who were online who were defending it, saying, you know, they came up with a couple arguments. One of the arguments was, well, Usyk has, you know, he's been on a run. He's beaten all these world-class elite fighters at the heavyweight division back to back. He deserves maybe a little, you know, a little leeway here. He deserves a little, a little step down from the high quality he's been fighting at the heavyweight division. hence, the introduction of Rico here being his next opponent. I saw people saying, well, I mean, since he's taking out everyone, there's no one for him to take on, so why not have a little, a little fun fight in between there to kind of at least get him back into the ring and showcase his talents to the world. People were saying these things as an argument. Another thing they were saying was, well, if Tyson Fury can do it against Francis Ngannou, why can't Oleksandr Usyk do it? So these were some of the arguments I saw online. How would you defend? How would you count? How would you rebuttal?
Yeah, they're both dumb arguments. The leeway for Usyk is fighting a guy like Deontay Wilder, and okay, he did beat almost all the top guys in the heavyweight division, but that doesn't mean there's no one left. Caballel is right there in his prime. He's ready for a world title fight. Also, Usyk isn't the undisputed champion. There's another champion that goes by the name of Fabio Wardley, who's also there. So, to say that there's nobody is a lie. There is two guys. I know for a fact two guys, and maybe you could throw Tyson Fury in there. I don't know about that trilogy, but whatever. He's coming back. Let's see how he looks against Bakhmutov, whatever. Yeah. But there's two guys that are prime there. Wardley is busy, but Caballel is wide open. You know his team is just waiting for a contract, and he's gonna sign it in less than an hour. So this is what I'm saying. The leeway, I can understand if Usyk wanted just a fun fight.
Money fight.
Yeah, Deontay Wilder, you know what I'm saying? That's your leeway. But why the hell are you going to a kickboxer, and bringing him into boxing and doing this whole thing? Another thing, just because Tyson Fury did it, that don't mean it's right. I think that fight was stupid too.
Well, it wasn't even a sanctioned bout, right?
Well, I'm not sure I think it was for belts, because I know after the fight the WBC obviously put Francis Ngannou top 10 in the rankings. So that's what I'm saying, bro. It's stupid.
It is. I searched it up. Supposedly it wasn't a title fight. It was simply just just a 10-rounder.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm pretty sure when he fought AJ, that wasn't a sanctioned bout as well. But I do remember the WBC just ranking this dude within the top 10, just so he can be like, oh yes, justified. We're gonna, he's gonna fight an MMA fighter, but it's justified now. But that doesn't mean shit. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with this guy. Yeah, he has at least one professional boxing match that happened 12 years ago. So, look, I want to give him some grace. I do want to give him some leeway, but I don't like how now it's for a belt. That was my only thing.
Yeah, it's supposedly the WBC decided to sanction it after quote unquote careful consideration, and I think what they mean by that is that they were waiting for Turkey to give them a call and tell them a forecast of how much money the fight was going to make before they made a decision whether or not they would sanction it or not. So after they got those numbers saying we could make a good money from sanctioning this fight, they went forward and sanctioned it. So a lot of people were going at the WBC, like you guys mentioned. The WBC has been under fire recently. Last time they were under fire was when they stripped Sugar Shakur from his lightweight belt. For some reason, I mean, it was the dumbest. I mean, he didn't even fight for the WBC, so I don't know what the hell Suleiman was going on when he decided to strip Sugar Shakur from his lightweight WBC belt. So the WBC currently is probably the current villain of the sanctioning bodies at the moment, and they are not helping their case when they're sanctioning this fight as a title fight. The cool thing though is, I mean, I do like that it's in Giza, right? The pyramids. I mean, that's one of those locations where you kind of see in video games, where you could potentially fight when you're trying to load up your a fighting location. So it's cool to see that we're gonna see the fights there. I assume it might be the same kind of energy or vibe that we got at Times Square. They're kind of hyping it up, as at the pyramids, but it's probably going to be 20 miles away with the pyramids just in the background. So,
and that's the thing. Is it going to be indoors? Because there's a lot of sand.
These fighters are used to maybe the ring being a little wet. They're not used to some sand being in there,
There's a lot of questions to be asked about this event, but like it or not, we are getting on May 23rd the return of the number one pound for pound fighter, Oleksandr Usyk, as he takes on Rico Verhoeven in a WBC title fight. People can hate on it. We're definitely not big fans of it, but it's happening. So we're going to see what happens later on this year. But is there anything else you guys would like to talk about in today's episode?
No, we're good.
No, we're good. All right. Well, let us know down below. First off, your thoughts on the Vaquero Navarrete versus Sugar Nuñez. Who do you want next for Vaquero? And what's next for Sugar Nuñez? Also, let us know your thoughts about this heavyweight clash between Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven. Are you for it? Are you against it? Let us know what you're thinking in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also follow us on all forms of social media. We're on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. This was Pablo, and I was Rudo Nasa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.